We're all incredibly excited for The Last of Us Part 2. Lord knows I am. And so naturally, lots of people are getting wildly speculative and they're making up theories and looking at every detail from the window panes down to Joel's hands in this announcement trailer, analyzing every word and the sentence structure of Neil Druckmann in the post-conference interviews that he's done. Everyone's incredibly excited, and they are talking a big game about theories, about plot twists, and all these different things. And I thought it would be fun to actually look at some of these theories and offer my 2 cents, because I actually have a very good track record when it comes to predicting stories and plot lines. I predicted Fallout 4's plot line down to the plot twist that happens about 3/4 through the game, 3 months before the game was even announced to be in existence. I predicted Uncharted 4's ending. I predicted, even the Assassin's Creed movie. I said that was going to suck. To be fair, that wasn't that much of a stretch or a surprise. But nonetheless, I predicted it. And so I thought it could be fun to look and offer my 2 cents into all of these crazy theories that people have going. So we're going to go step by step through some of the most popular theories and see if there's any real basis for it or if they're possible. Nonetheless, it's going to be a blast. Needless to say, there will be spoilers for the first game. If you haven't played that game, you should, or at least watch somebody else play it. But if you don't want to be surprised, you should click away now. Go watch another video of mine. But with that said, let's get into it. So the first theory is very simple and at the same time very complicated. Essentially, what they did is they looked at the most obvious things in the trailer. First of all, we see Ellie's hand shaking quite vigorously while she's playing the guitar, which is also a symbol of Joel, because Joel said he was going to teach her how to play the guitar and sing for her. So Joel has clearly taught her how to play the guitar. So that's already drawing a connection between her and Joel, her father figure, right then and there at the start of the trailer. And then we also look at the window panes and the window sill just in general, which bears a striking resemblance to the loading screen of the first game, something which I can't imagine is an accident. I have to imagine that was intentional. As to why, well, we'll get to that and maybe offer a few ideas, but nonetheless, it seems to be very intentional. Secondly, Ellie seems to be wearing the same gray shirt as Riley from Left Behind, the DLC for the original Last of Us, somebody that she cared for and loved very deeply, who died as a result of being bitten at the same time Ellie was bitten. And then we also see Joel walking through this house. He comes silhouetted through the doorway, seemingly appearing out of this light, and he walks very slowly in, very methodically in, very calm, stepping over bodies, and people notice that he seems to have very, very clean clothes, and his hands are incredibly clean, and he seems to be incredibly healthy. His hair seems to be very dark and thick. It's not as ratty as it was in the first game, and all of this pointing and leading up to the point when Joel interacts with Ellie for the first time and says,
"What are you doing, kiddo? You really gonna go through with this?"
Now, that's a very interesting thing, because typically their dialogue has been much, much more drawn out. It's been much more casual, much more realistic. But in this one, there's this weird tension between the two. And so people assume that after all this, when you add it all together, it all has to go back with the cordyceps virus, which, as we learned in the first game, actually grows around the brain.
The doctors tell me the cordyceps, the growth inside her, has somehow mutated. It's why she's immune. Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine. A vaccine.
But it grows all over the brain.
It does.
And so what this could mean is that the virus and the fungus is in fact growing on the inside of her skull and is affecting her mental capacity and mental state to the point where she's having weird tremors and things, as you see in her hands. She is also seeing things, and all of these things are sort of projections of her past, with seeing Joel, who possibly passed away earlier in the 5-year period between the first and the second game. She's also projecting and has Riley's shirt on. Perhaps she's actually wearing it, or perhaps that's just her perception, and this entire scene is sort of a projection from her subconscious about and with the things and people that she cared about and loved. Nonetheless, it seems that this theory relies on Ellie starting to lose it. To be quite simple and quite straightforward with it, she's starting to lose it. She's lost the only person she really cares about, being Joel, which is why he seems so perfect. He has very clean skin, he has very clean clothes, so he's almost like an angel. He is in his perfect form in her mental state. And when he asks her, "What are you doing, kiddo? Are you really going to go through with this?" And then she replies with, "I'm going to find and I'm going to kill every last one of them." She's possibly talking about those that killed Joel, or perhaps those fireflies that maybe were hunting them down after the end of the first game to try to get revenge or to try to capture her, and ended up killing Joel in the process. And so now she's on this sort of revenge streak. Now, is that possible? It's possible. I would not count on this being at least entirely true. I wouldn't expect Joel to be out and out dead. I wouldn't expect everything in this theory to be correct, because frankly, it seems too easy. It really seems too easy. And I don't think it's a habit of Neil Druckmann or of Naughty Dog's to spoil the entire plot line of their game fairly obviously with the first trailer that they release. Possibly even up to 2 years before the release of the game. I don't think that's something they would do. So I don't think it's that simple. I think elements of this theory are definitely fair and definitely could be accurate. I think it's fair to say that the fungus is perhaps growing in her brain and that's causing tremors, or it's affecting her mental state. Maybe she's more irritable, maybe whatever. She's starting to lose it. She sees things. I think that's fair. Could definitely add to some fun and interesting gameplay mechanics if perhaps you're running through the world and all of a sudden you're seeing visions of Riley just all over the place and she's calling out to you and it's affecting your mental state. I think that could be very, very interesting and very cool. Definitely a cool way to put the focus back on Ellie, and perhaps she sees her mom appear, and you have these interactions, as we saw with the poster in Uncharted 4 of someone who seemingly looks to be Ellie's mom. Perhaps we're going to find out about Ellie's past through these hallucinations, which could be very, very interesting. But overall, I don't think everything in this theory can be true, because it seems too simple, too obvious. Perhaps that's what he's doing. Maybe Druckmann wants us to just assume it's too obvious and not do it. But I think there's probably a little more nuance in what he's trying to tell you through this trailer. Now, the second big theory is very simple, and it is based on this rear shot we see of Ellie playing the guitar. And on the right wall, there's a poster. And there's a word on the poster, and it's really the only thing that you can actually read in the entire room. Everything else is just blurry enough that you can't make it out. But this one word, Theus, it's a reference to the ancient Greek tale of Theus, who was essentially the mythical king of Athens and the son of Aethra by the two fathers, Aegis and Poseidon. And he's this sort of mythical hero and savior who fought the Minotaur and rescued, and he's seen as this folkloric hero in ancient Greece. And many stories throughout the millennia have been based on him, and usually it can be a jumping off point for stories of revenge, for stories of any sort of heroics where there is some sort of great injustice being done and then somebody goes off and frees the people from some sort of oppression is essentially what Theseus can be used to inspire. So the word Theseus has really been a jumping off point for many theories saying, well, maybe Ellie is so ticked off at Joel's death, mixing in with the idea that Joel seems too perfect in this trailer, so perhaps he's a figment of her imagination. And perhaps this figment of her imagination is trying to talk her out of doing it and of going off and getting revenge and just trying to convince her to move on, but she's fighting this internal thing in her head and saying, no, I'm going to find that I'm going to kill every last one of them. Everyone who's responsible for killing you, my father figure. Perhaps that's what it's saying. And then she would be this sort of Theseusian, that's definitely not a word, but this sort of heroic character. Do I think that that's fair? I think there's probably, once again, a little more nuance to it. I don't think they would put all their eggs in one basket and give you all the answers to the narrative right off the start, right off the boat. I don't think that they would do that. What I think Theseus is actually probably referring to is the idea that Ellie is really the savior and the one person that has the ability to take down the Minotaur, to take down the cordyceps virus. She has the potential to do it. And perhaps in this game, she's going to have to balance these ideas of, like, do I believe what Joel told me? Clearly, the Fireflies are going to have something large to do with this game. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put it on the signpost. It's one of the first references to The Last of Us you see in the trailer, if not the first. So this idea that the Fireflies have died out or are just fallen apart, I don't personally buy. Otherwise, I think they wouldn't have put the Firefly symbol at the start of the trailer. Clearly, I think that's saying that they're going to have a pretty large role in this game and in the narrative. So I think that they are going to be a very big part of this game. But I would say that Ellie has to figure out if she wants to be the sacrifice to the Minotaur or if she wants to be the one that conquers the Minotaur. Now, whether or not the Minotaur that Theseus takes down, you could argue that that's the cordyceps virus, or you could argue that that's the frickin' Fireflies. Maybe the Fireflies are the ones who have had all these people sacrificed to them, like at the end of the first game when you find out that there have been other people that seemingly have at least a resistance to the virus, that they have basically dissected. They've killed and dissected them to try to figure out how to cure it. And so perhaps those people represent the sacrifice to the Minotaur and the Fireflies are the Minotaur. Or perhaps the Minotaur is the cordyceps virus and everyone who has become infected are the sacrifice to the Minotaur that's told in the fable and in the legend. So really, the Theseus reference is just vague enough that you can make it fit with almost anything. And by almost anything, I mean two real options. So it's dangerous because it's just malleable enough that you can make it fit with basically any theory. And I gotta hand it to him. It's done in just a way, and the trailer was done in just a way where it's able to fuel enough hype and speculation that somebody like me is making a video to get extra clicks. I mean, it's pretty genius. I'm not gonna lie to you, like that's part of it. But I'm also super excited about it, and I want to talk about it as much as I can. So overall, I think that there's a lot of theories that could be made with regard to The Last of Us Part 2 as to the story and as to all this. But a lot of it is just that. It's conjecture, and everything was put in this trailer just vague enough that you could really create any theory off of it. Now, let me offer my 2 cents as to where I think this is going now that we knocked out some of those theories. And put them out there. I think it's definitely fair to notice that Joel seems very well kept. And he's very clean. He's well trimmed. He doesn't seem to be that rough and tumble. Now, this could be for multiple reasons. It is 5 years later, so Joel is 54 in this game, if he is still alive, but he's 54 years old, and that's fairly old. So perhaps he has passed away, or perhaps he has realized that, he needs to calm down and he needs to take on the more passive position in the relationship between Joel and Ellie, because he's just getting older and he can't do what he used to do. He can't just beat the crap out of people the same way he used to, which could jive with what we already know, which is that Ellie is going to be the main playable character in this game. So with that being said, you would have to expect Joel's position to change. And Joel's interaction, especially with the gameplay in the fighting mechanics, to have altered as well. He can't be the main, rough and tumble, beat him up guy that he was in the first game, because then Ellie would take second place again. That's just how it would work out. So my guess would be this perhaps has to do more with age. Perhaps once they went back to Tommy's place, something happened to Tommy, or Joel just became a sort of head of the city where Tommy was located. The Fireflies came in. They attacked the whatever they called it, Tommy's place. That's what I'll call it. They attacked it and they had to leave, and that's why they're out here seemingly in just suburbia, and they are pulling people in, looting them, and trying to defend themselves. They're on the run, perhaps. And Joel has just taken a much more intelligent, more wise, more reserved, more calm, older man type of approach to life, which I can't blame him for doing in the zombie apocalypse at the age of 54. Now, the idea that Joel is just outright dead is a little risky to play with, because Druckmann has said on multiple occasions that The Last of Us is the story of Joel and Ellie. He was asked, I believe at PSX, is there ever going to be a Last of Us without Joel and Ellie? Or, are you going to do what you're doing with Uncharted, where you're doing this spin-off, The Lost Legacy, without Nathan Drake? Is there going to be a Last of Us without Joel and Ellie? And he said no. At the heart of it, The Last of Us is the story of Joel and Ellie, and the day that they aren't in The Last of Us is the day that The Last of Us is done.
I mean, do you think The Last of Us can exist without Joel and Ellie? I mean, are they The Last of Us? I mean, what is your interpretation of what we've seen and understood so far about the game in the series?
Don't look at me. It's so much. They're the heart of it. I don't see it without them. That's all I can. That's all I can really say. It's like they're right. Obviously, we have the infected, and there's the world, and there's all these different factions, and how they're trying to eco survival in this world. But at its core, it's about human relationships, and this being the most important one in the story. So. It is what it is.
Which I think is incredibly wonderful to realize, because it is the story of these two. And to kill off Joel, I don't know. I think that could be a little, I guess, problematic. I don't like that word, but I'm going to use it. It's a little problematic, especially because when you start off a story with the plot hole, or with the, plot twist, then the writing becomes incredibly predictable, because you're trying to fit it around this hinge that you've already put in. Rather, what you need to do is start out with the characters and say, okay, where would this story go naturally? Where would these characters in real life go? What would they do? How would they interact? How would their relationships change? That's the difference between the writing of The Last of Us, where you start out with two characters and they slowly come together, and there's no big plot hole or plot twist or anything that's structured or that was created at the very beginning and the outset. And you contrast it with like Fallout 4, where the big plot twist I predicted 3 months before the game was even announced to be in existence, because I could kind of see that that's what Bethesda was doing. They thought, oh, well, what if your son is super old and wasn't actually still a baby when you find him? Well, yeah, everyone with 2 brain cells predicted that. And then it turns out like, oh, well, he's actually the old guy, the head of the Institute. Yeah, well, we kind of predicted that too. And then they try to fit everything around it, and there's tons of plot holes all over the place as a result of it, because they started with the twist and tried to make everything fit around it. Instead, what you need to do is you need to write the story, and if a twist appears or fits, then you can do it. If it turns out like Joel has been dead the whole time, but the story has been done in such a way that you don't even really think about it, that's what you should do. And the reason why I'm hesitant to say that Joel is dead just from this trailer is because I think that that's too easy. I think it's too simple, and I think everyone kind of expects that. And to be honest, I think they are a little too good for that. I don't think Naughty Dog, I don't think Neil Druckmann would give in to the obvious answer, which is that Joel is old, Joel is more prone to death and to mistakes, especially with his kind of hectic nature in the fighting space, in the confrontational areas. And I just don't think that he's that. I don't think he's that type of writer to come out and say it. But with all that said, I've been rambling about this for a while. I could talk about The Last of Us for hours and hours and hours, and I probably will in this next week's episode of Talk Gaming, my full show I do every weekend. But with all that said, guys, let me know your theories. Let me know what you thought of these theories and of what I said and what the other people said. Let me know all that down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow me on Twitter and tweet me #TalkGaming with the game that most has influenced you in your life. That way you can enter to win a full $60 game by the end of this week on #TalkGaming. So with that said, guys, thank you for watching. I love each and every single one of you more than you could possibly know. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace out. Love you. Bye. Hey, did you like that? Well, that was just an extra of the full show that I do every weekend. So if you haven't seen it already, make sure to check it out. Ad card things popping up everywhere. And subscribe if you haven't already.